What does it do, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Says. I am your host, and, well, what I've been calling for finally came to pass. In Kansas City, the Rams start Bryce Perkins at QB and start Lance McCutcheon at wide receiver. And despite taking that L, the Rams did show some signs of life. I saw fight from the Rams. I saw some grit, some heart from the defense. It looked like the Rams were trying to play some inspired football against KC and my homeboy. And I had no expectation that they could actually go to Kansas City and win that game. Oh, they were outmatched, outgunned. They did not quit. And I like to see that. And so what I would suggest, Mr. McWonder, is that you do not remove Bryce Perkins from starting QB this Sunday against the Hawks at the Palace in Inglewood. Leave the Wolford in street clothes or as backup QB. And I believe, as I said last episode, there's no point in bringing Matty from the D back this season. I wanted to see what the future might hold with Bryce Perkins playing a full game at starting QB with a week of preparation under his belt, a full game plan designed, tailored to his strengths. And what we saw, I'll be perfectly honest, was, and not unexpectedly, a little bumpy ride. Now, McGenius did not do Bryce Perkins any favors by constantly running the ball on first down. You know the Rams have no running game. And so by constantly handing the ball off on first down, Bryce Perkins was repeatedly playing from behind the sticks on second and long and third and long. And that is not an ideal way for a young quarterback to get his bearings, especially when you're playing a quality team, and KC may be the best team in the NFL. There's a very good chance KC will end up in the Super Bowl with my homeboy. Still, and despite all that, I liked the fact that the Rams did not quit, did not give in, showed stiff resolve, and battled the whole 60 minutes. And so now that Bryce Perkins has gotten that game under his belt and that experience, I'd like to see what he can do against them Hawks when they come to the Palace in Inglewood this Sunday. So when we started Sunday off, the inactives for the Rams in KC, the Wolford, was in street clothes. We know the protégé, Matty from the D, was in concussion protocol, and so he would not play. Center Brian Allen, also inactive, would not play. And so we had yet again another O-line combination, the 11th O-line combination in 11 games. The O-line shuffle continues on, and it very well may continue on Sunday with the 12th O-line combination in 12 games. And you know that is a recipe for a very poor outcome. But what I also learned was that A-Rob, a.k.a. Buster Brown, was injured and would not play. And subsequently, I have learned A-Rob, Buster Brown, is done for the season. Stress fracture in his foot. He will not take another snap for the Rams this season. And I tell you what now, let me just digress here for a moment to say, Buster Brown, A-Rob, played in 10 games for the Rams this season. for a grand total now of 33 receptions. That's about 3.3 catches a game. For a grand total of 339 yards. It's about 33 yards a game. And 3 touchdowns. Paltry. Measly. That is Buster territory. So the A-Rob experiment was by no means or stretch successful. Why you let Bobby Trees go is still a mystery to me. But at least Bobby Trees is now playing on a playoff-bound team in Tennessee. So I wish him the best in the AFC because the Titans will be in the playoffs. Now, back to regularly scheduled programming. I'll be honest, startled to learn during last week, the run-up to the KC game, just after I completed the last recording, the last episode, I found out that McGenius had cut Darrell Henderson. Now, Darrell Henderson was only averaging about 4 or so yards per carry. Not earth-shaking by any means, but he was the best. He had the best yards per carry average of any running back on the team. So, with a ground game that was getting little to nothing, why McGenius cut the most productive back he had, it made me scratch my head. I saw a tweet where Darrell Henderson had his hands up like, thank you, Father. So, there's something wrong. Stink at the Palace in Inglewood. And so, that left the starting running back duties to Cam the Grill Akers. And, fortunately, the rookie, Kyren Williams, is now coming on. The grill seems cooked to me as far as his production. So I'm hopeful that Kyren Williams can really make steps and strides and grow into that starting tailback role. And so right off the bat in the KC game, the defense showed resolve. AD 99 put a little bit of pressure on my homeboy, and KC had to punt right away. And the first possession the Rams had is set back because Ashes is penalized, foolishly penalized for unnecessary roughness on the punt, setting the offense and Bryce Perkins back to start the very first possession of the game. His first possession as starting quarterback, he's backed up in the shadow of his own end zone. Thanks a lot, Ashes. And speaking of Ashes, Ashes got burnt again, torched, lit ablaze, set afire, this time by Kelsey. In fact, this is a recurring phenomenon. Ashes getting lit up by opposing wide receivers and tight ends. In fact, opposing quarterbacks have a 100 passer rating when they throw against Ashes. I think the time may have come for Ashes to blow in the wind. But I digress. Now, not being able to move the ball much on offense, the Rams' first punt of the game turns into a Rams turnover when KC muffs the punt. And who was it? Stoney! Put those stone hands on the kick returner. And the Rams recover. And I will say, Stoney, he has usefulness on special teams. I don't begrudge him that. The problem is, when you run him out as a starting wide receiver in the NFL, you're begging to lose because he doesn't put fear in anybody on the defensive side of the ball. As I say, Bryce Perkins had his moments. For example, that second Rams possession after the muff punt recovery. Unfortunately, Bryce faced second and long quite a bit the whole day. But on that second and long, he scrambled for 8, brought up a third and medium, and he threw a dart after a scramble to the imaginary Van Jefferson, who had no toe drag swag, and the Rams had to punt the ball away. So, he didn't get the most support from McGenius or his wide receiver core, to be quite honest with you. And that's not to absolve him. He made some rookie mistakes as well. McGenius did dial up what was a successful fake punt. That was well called for because the Rams had to steal a play here or there, steal a possession here or there. And so that worked to perfection, but it didn't result in much. At halftime, the Rams were trailing KC 13-3. And by the way, Bryce Perkins had one particular scramble. I'll tell you what, he didn't get a lot of positive yardage out of it, but it was remarkable in that he refused to go down. He had that will, that fight, and I believe that's infectious. And that's why I'm hoping that McGenius will allow Bryce Perkins to build upon his experience from the KC game at home against Seattle. Bryce Perkins is a fighter. And so finally, midway through the third quarter, McGenius lets him throw the ball downfield on first down. And there was a big completion to the imaginary Van Jefferson. And then Perkins, building on that momentum, led LA on a 14-play, 75-yard scoring drive, including converting a 4th and 2 for a touchdown, 20-10. KC was up at that moment. And the Rams defense kept fighting. And after a Nick the Thumper Scott interception off my homeboy, the Rams took over yet again. In fact, on the day, the LA defense held Kansas City 5 of 6 red zone trips. 5 of 6 red zone trips, the defense held Kansas City to field goals or that Thumper Scott interception. After that interception, once again, the Rams take over. McGee, predictable, hands the ball off on first down. And so now again behind the sticks, Perk trying to make a play second and long. The ball is tip, drill, picked, and KC takes over in the Rams red zone. But yet again the defense holds, forcing KC to settle for 3 points. I'm thinking McGenius, let the man throw the ball downfield. McWonder runs it again on first down. The play calling was so timid by McGenius, so predictable, that it never really felt like Kansas City was threatened. McGenius' play calling left a lot to be desired, as it has all season long. And so LA falls now to its 5th consecutive loss since the bye. Falls hard to 3-8. And, you have to wonder, can LA win another game this season? Well, now McGenius is threatening to reinsert the Wolford back into the starting quarterback spot. And I'm telling you, that is a mistake, sir. That would be a bad decision. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. As of this recording, we've learned that Lance McCutcheon suffered a shoulder injury. And so that's yet another casualty. We've learned that AD 99, the Beast, has a high ankle sprain, yet another casualty. And if you bring the Wolford back, that's yet another casualty, having the sick wild wolf running the quarterback spot. So we'll see what happens at the Palace in Inglewood on Sunday, but the grill looks cooked to me. And Ashes looks done to me. I wish he played as strong a game as he talks. All those drop picks, being repeatedly torched. It makes me wonder, how much does Ashes really have left in a Rams uniform? So I hope that McGenius will come to his senses as his head stops throbbing from the whack he took. Leave the Wolford on the sideline. Let Bryce Perkins play the rest of the way, and you have a chance. You saw how the troops rallied around him in KC. You have a chance against Seattle. But you run the Wolford back out there and you're done. Okay? So, I'm hoping McGenius is not stuck on that madness with the Wolford. And we'll see what happens if, in fact, Bryce Perkins gets a chance to follow up on his performance in Kansas City. And either way, I'll be here to cover it. And until then, throw me one of these. Throw it to me now. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And until the next time, which won't be too long from this time. One love.